Evan Hale had never thought of himself as important. He was a simple engineer, the kind who fixed things that other people forgot. His workstation floated alone at the far edge of known human space, bolted to an old asteroid that had more metal than beauty. Most days, Evan repaired broken salvage drones, patched cracked hull plates, and rewired ancient machines that no one else wanted to touch. He liked the quiet. Machines made sense. People, not so much. The galaxy beyond his station was loud, dangerous, and full of politics he did not understand. Evan stayed far away from all of that. On this particular day, he was elbow-deep inside a power conduit, muttering softly as sparks jumped around his gloves. The station hummed unevenly, a familiar sound that told him something was wrong, but not yet broken enough to panic. Then the alarm rang. Evan froze. The sound was sharp and unfamiliar. He had disabled most alerts years ago. Only one system still used that tone. External proximity warning. He pulled his arm free, wiped his hands on his worn jacket, and moved toward the control console. The screen flickered, then stabilized, showing a drifting shape just outside the station's gravity field. A ship. It was small, badly damaged, and spinning slowly. Its hull was torn open in several places, and power readings were almost non-existent. No transponder code showed on the screen. Evan frowned. Unmarked ships were rare. Unmarked ships this far out were dangerous. Protocol said he should ignore it. Reported to Central Command.
Let someone else deal with it. Evan stared at the image.
The ship rotated, revealing a section that had been burned almost completely through. Whatever had hit it had not been gentle. He sighed.
Just my luck,
he muttered. He ran a scan. Life signs appeared, faint, unstable, but there. Someone was alive in there. Evan leaned back in his chair and closed his eyes for a moment. He knew the risks. Pirates, spies, traps. The galaxy had taught humans to be careful, but it had also taught them something else. If someone was dying, you helped. He opened his eyes and made his decision. Docking arms online, he said aloud, more to steady himself than anything else. The station's mechanical arms extended slowly, carefully gripping the damaged ship. Metal groaned as the wreck was pulled closer. Evan guided it into the auxiliary bay, sealing the area and flooding it with breathable air. When the pressure equalized, he grabbed a medkit and stepped inside. The smell hit him first. Burnt wiring, scorched metal, and something sharp and unfamiliar. He moved cautiously through the torn corridor of the alien ship, his boots crunching on debris. "Hello," he called out.
I'm here to help.
No answer. He followed the life sign reading to the rear chamber. The door was half melted, but he forced it open with a pry bar. Inside, lying against the curved wall, was the alien. She was smaller than Evan expected, barely reaching his chest if she stood. Soft silver fur covered her body, darkened in places by blood and burns. Her ears, long and fox-like, were torn at the edges. Her breathing was shallow and uneven. Vulpine. Evan had seen pictures before. The Vulpine species was rare, private, and powerful. They were known for intelligence, long lives, and strict control over their territory. Seeing one here, alone, was strange. Seeing one dying was worse. She lifted her head slightly when he approached. Her eyes opened, glowing faintly with a soft blue light. Fear flashed through them before exhaustion dragged her back down. "It's okay," Evan said quickly, kneeling beside her. "I won't hurt you." He didn't know if she understood his words, but his tone seemed to reach her. Her tense muscles relaxed just a little. Evan scanned her with the med kit. Internal injuries. Severe energy burns. Blood loss. Bad, but not hopeless. He worked carefully, cleaning wounds and sealing torn flesh with medical foam. When the kit ran low, he improvised, using sealant meant for hull cracks and adjusting the dosage by hand. It wasn't perfect, but it slowed the bleeding. The Vulpine let out a soft sound, half pain, half relief. "Yeah," Evan murmured. "I know. It's not gentle, but it'll keep you alive." He carried her back to the station's medical bay, moving slowly so as not to disturb her injuries. She was lighter than she looked. Fragile, even. Once she was secured in the med pod, Evan leaned against the wall and finally allowed himself to breathe. "What were you doing out here?" he wondered aloud. The med pod beeped softly, stabilizing her condition. She was unconscious now, her chest rising and falling steadily. Evan cleaned up, disposed of ruined tools, and began repairing the docking bay. His hands moved automatically, but his thoughts stayed with the Vulpine. Whoever she was, someone had wanted her dead. Hours passed. The station returned to its usual quiet hum. Evan sat near the med bay, eating a simple meal from a nutrient pack. He kept glancing at the pod, half expecting alarms. Instead, the pod opened. Evan stood up instantly. The Vulpine stirred, her eyes fluttering open. She looked around slowly, confusion and caution clear in her expression. When she saw Evan, her body tensed again. "It's all right," he said gently, raising his hands. "You're safe, at least, safer than before." She studied him closely. Her gaze was sharp despite her weakness, noticing details, the worn clothes, the oil stains on his hands, the absence of weapons. "You saved me," she said. Her voice was soft, musical, and strained. She spoke perfect human standard. Evan blinked. "Yeah? I guess I did." She pushed herself up slightly, wincing. "You should not have." He frowned. "Most people say thank you." A faint smile touched her lips before fading. "Most people do not understand what they involve themselves in." "Well," Evan said, scratching the back of his neck, "I saw someone dying." "I fixed the problem. That's kind of my thing." She watched him for a long moment, as if trying to decide whether he was lying. "What is your name?" she asked. "Evan. Evan. Hale. Hong." She hesitated. "I am Lyra." Evan nodded. "Nice to meet you, Lyra. Try not to move too much." "You're still healing?" Lyra leaned back, obeying. Her eyes drifted around the room. "This place?" "It is simple, yeah," Evan said with a small shrug. "Gets the job done." She was silent again, thinking. "You expect nothing in return?" she asked quietly. Evan laughed, surprised. "If you're asking about payment, don't worry about it." "I don't even know what your people use as money." "That is not what I meant," Lyra said. He looked at her, really looked this time. There was intelligence in her eyes, and something deeper, weight, responsibility, hidden behind exhaustion. "Well," he said, choosing his words carefully, "if you're feeling better, I can help fix your ship, or call someone to come get you. Whatever you want." Her ears twitched. A flicker of tension crossed her face. "No," she said quickly. "No calls. No signals." Evan raised an eyebrow but didn't press. "All right, your call." She relaxed slightly. "You are different from what I expected of humans." "Yeah?" Evan smiled faintly. "We get that a lot." Unseen by Evan, far beyond the edge of human space, powerful sensors flared to life. Fleets adjusted their courses. Signals spread through hidden channels. The galaxy was searching, and the simple engineer had no idea that the quiet life he loved had just changed forever. The station felt different after Lyra woke up. It was not louder or brighter, but Evan noticed small things. The way the light seemed too harsh for her eyes, so he dimmed them. The way she flinched at sudden mechanical noises, so he delayed repairs until she rested. Evan did not think much about these changes. He simply adjusted, the same way he always did when a machine behaved oddly. Lyra noticed everything. She spent most of the first day resting in the medical bay. Her injuries were serious, but her body healed faster than Evan expected. Vulpine biology was advanced, resilient still. She was weak, and Evan insisted she stay put. "You humans worry too much," Lyra said softly as Evan checked the medpod readings. "Yeah," Evan replied, "but we're really good at surviving because of it." She studied him from the pod, ears tilted slightly forward. "You live here alone?" "Most of the time," he said. "Supply crews stop by every few months. Otherwise, it's just me and the station. That would drive many beings mad." Evan chuckled. Maybe it did. Hard to tell. As the hours passed, Evan returned to his work. He repaired damaged circuits, recalibrated scanners, and reinforced the docking bay where Lyra's ship rested. The ship itself puzzled him. Its design was elegant but strange, with technology far beyond what most independent travelers could afford. More than once, Evan caught Lyra watching him as he worked. Not just watching, studying. She observed how he talked to machines, how he cursed gently when a bolt refused to turn, how he hummed off-key songs while welding. She noticed that he double-checked safety seals even when no one was around to see it. She noticed that he ate, simply, and saved the better food for her, without mentioning it. This was not how most species behaved. "You do not fear me," Lyra said later, when Evan brought her a warm nutrient drink. "I mean," Evan said, handing it over carefully, "I'd be lying if I said I wasn't a little nervous. But you're injured." "You haven't threatened me, and you didn't ask to crash into my life." She wrapped her fingers around the cup, absorbing its warmth. "Others would have seen me as an opportunity. Others aren't me." That answer stayed with her long after he left the room. That night, while Evan slept, Lyra remained awake. Her eyes glowed faintly in the dark as she listened to the station's systems hum. She extended her awareness carefully, silently, scanning beyond the walls. The galaxy was restless. She felt the distant pull of search networks activating, ancient protocols stirring. They were subtle, hidden from most sensors, but she knew their signature. They were looking for her. She closed her eyes and pulled back, masking her presence. This station, this human. Neither deserved what would follow if she were found too soon. The next day, Evan helped her move to a small living compartment closer to the main hall. He adjusted the gravity slightly to better match her comfort and modified the air filters with a few quick changes. "You shouldn't know how to do that," Lyra said, watching him work. Evan shrugged. "Air is air. Gravity is just math. Most systems aren't that different once you take them apart."
That belief is very...
"Human? Is that bad?" She smiled faintly. "No, just dangerous." As her strength returned, Lyra began asking questions. About humans, about Earth, about why humans kept pushing into deep space despite limited resources and constant losses. "We don't like being boxed in," Evan explained. "Someone tells us you can't go there and suddenly that's the first place we want to go. And when you fail?" Evan thought for a moment. "We get back up, or we die trying. But usually, we get back up." Lyra lowered her gaze. "That trait has shaped the galaxy more than you know," Evan laughed. "Pretty sure the galaxy doesn't even notice us yet." Lyra said nothing. On the third day, the station's long-range scanner pinged. Evan was halfway through repairing a power relay when the alert appeared on his wrist display. He frowned. That scanner rarely detected anything beyond debris. He pulled up the feed. Multiple faint energy signatures. Far away. Coordinated. His stomach tightened. "Hey, Lyra?" he called out carefully, keeping his voice calm. "You said you didn't want any signals sent, right?"
"Yes," she replied from the other room.
"Why? I think someone else is doing the sending." Lyra went still. Evan adjusted the scanner, filtering noise. The signatures were not human. Their movement was precise. controlled.
Military. They're not close, Evan said, trying to reassure himself as much as her.
Could be weeks away. Or days, Lyra said quietly. Evan turned to look at her.
Her ears were low now, her posture tense. "You know who they are," he said. "Yes. You want to tell me?" She hesitated. Every instinct told her to remain silent, to leave before the net closed, to protect herself. But when she looked at Evan, grease-stained and tired, standing between her and a galaxy that wanted to claim her, something shifted. "They are not pirates," she said. "They are not hunters." "Great," Evan muttered. "That's usually worse."
"They serve order," Lyra continued.
"And order does not like uncertainty."
Evan crossed his arms. "And your uncertainty." She met his eyes.
"I am necessary." He waited for more. She did not continue.
"All right," he said finally. "Then we prepare." "For what?" "For the worst case," Evan replied. "That's another human habit." He reinforced the station's shields, rerouted power, and masked emissions as best he could. His station was old, but it was sturdy, and Evan knew every weak point. As he worked, Lyra felt something unfamiliar settle in her chest. Trust. She had ruled through fear, strategy, and distance for longer than most species' histories. Trust was a luxury she could rarely afford. Yet here it was, freely given by a human who expected nothing. That night, Lyra stood at the viewport, watching distant stars. Evan joined her, handing her a small tool.
"What's this?" she asked. "Signal scrambler?" he said.
"Not much, but it might blur things." She took it carefully. "You are risking yourself."
"Yeah. But that was true the moment I pulled your ship inside."
She looked at him then. Really looked at him. "You do not know who I am," she said softly. "Nope. And if you did, you might choose differently." "Maybe," Evan admitted. "But right now, you're someone who needed help." She closed her eyes, steadying herself. For the first time in centuries, the ruler of the galaxy felt afraid, not of capture, but of what she might lose. Far away, engines burned brighter. The search tightened, and the simple engineer continued working, unaware that the fate of empires was slowly orbiting his quiet station. The waiting was the hardest part. Evan had prepared the station as well as he could. Shields were tuned beyond their normal limits. Power was rerouted from non-essential systems. The signal scrambler hummed softly, fighting against invisible forces far beyond its original design. Still, space felt too quiet. Lyra sensed it as well. She moved through the station more now, her steps slow but steady. Her strength had mostly returned, though Evan noticed she tired quickly when she thought he wasn't watching. Sometimes she would pause, her ears twitching, her eyes unfocused, as if listening to something only she could hear. "They're closer," she said one evening. Evan looked up from his console. "How close?" "Close enough to know they are narrowing the field." He exhaled slowly. "Figures." For a moment, neither spoke. The station drifted in silence, stars sliding past the viewport like distant fires. "Evan," Lyra said at last, "when they arrive, you must let me go." He turned to face her. "That depends." "On what?" "On what let me go actually means," he replied. "If it means you walk out and they tear this place apart anyway, then no. They will not harm you if you do not interfere." Evan gave a humorless smile. "That's not very comforting." She stepped closer. "You do not understand their power." "Maybe not," Evan said, "but I understand bullies, and I understand when someone's being hunted." Lyra flinched slightly. I am not a victim. I didn't say you were, he replied. But you're still someone they want to control. That hit closer than she expected. That night, Lyra finally told him more.
Not everything. Never everything.
But enough. My people, she began, sitting across from him, were once scattered and weak. The galaxy ignored us, used us, broke us. Evan listened quietly. So we learned, she continued. We learned patience, strategy, influence. We learned to rule without being seen. You built an empire, Evan said slowly.
Yes, Lyra replied, but empires fear change.
And I encourage it. Evan raised an eyebrow. You don't sound like the villain they're painting you as. They do not paint villains, she said softly. They erase threats. Before Evan could respond, the alarms blared. This time, they were real. Multiple warp signatures flared on the main display. Sleek ships emerged from folded space, their hulls dark, marked with symbols Evan didn't recognize, but somehow understood. Authority. His heart hammered. They are here. Lyra stood, calm on the surface but burning inside.
Yes! The lead ship transmitted immediately. A channel opened, filling the room with a deep, measured voice.
Unregistered human station. You are harboring a protected galactic asset. Surrender her, and you will not be harmed.
Evan swallowed.
Protected asset, he muttered. That's one way to say it. He stepped forward, positioning himself between Lyra and the screen. This is Evan Hale, he said clearly. Independent engineer. You're on my property. There was a pause. Then the voice replied, colder now. You are obstructing lawful retrieval. Step aside. No, Evan said simply. Lyra stared at him. You do not know what you're doing, she whispered. Yeah, Evan replied quietly, but I'm doing it anyway. The ship's powered weapons. Not fully, but enough to be unmistakable.
You have seconds, the voice warned. Evan's mind raced.
He knew he couldn't win a fight. He knew the station wouldn't survive a direct assault. But he also knew something else. They were talking. That meant rules. You said she's protected, Evan said aloud. Protected by who? Silence. Because from where I'm standing, he continued, she looks like someone running from people who don't want her making choices. Lyra felt something tighten in her chest. You are emotional, the voice replied. Stand down. Evan laughed softly. Funny, you traveled across half the galaxy for one person, and I'm the emotional one? The sensors flared again. More ships appeared at the edge of range. Lyra closed her eyes. This was it. She stepped forward, her presence suddenly heavier, sharper. When she spoke, her voice changed, still soft, but carrying undeniable authority.
That is enough. The channel went dead for a fraction of a second.
Then it reopened. My sovereign, the voice said, no longer cold, now careful. You were not to travel alone. Evan's breath caught. Sovereign. Lyra straightened fully now, her ears high, her gaze steady. I was not to be followed, she replied. Yet here you are. The fleet hesitated. Evan stared at her, mind struggling to catch up.
Lyra? She did not look away from the screen. I am sorry you had to hear it this way. The voice continued, almost pleading.
You endanger stability. Return with us. Stability built on silence's decay, Lyra said.
You know this! Weapons powered down slightly. Not off. Weapons!
But lower. Evan finally found his voice.
You rule them. I guide them, Lyra corrected. From the shadows, Evan let out a slow breath.
The realization hit him all at once. The danger, the scale, the fact that he had patched up a ruler with hull sealant meant for broken pipes. "And you still fixed my wounds," Lyra said quietly, glancing at him. "Even knowing none of this." Gwyn sobbed.
You were bleeding!
The channel flared again.
Human!
The voice said, now addressing Evan directly. "Step away, this matter is beyond you." Evan stepped closer instead. "Here's the thing," he said. "You showed up with guns and demands. She showed up dying. I chose who to help." The silence that followed was heavy. Lyra felt it ripple outward, across ships, across systems, across a galaxy unused to such defiance from something so small. "This human is under my protection," she said. The words carried weight far beyond sound. The fleet froze. Evan turned to her, stunned.
"Wait, what?" "I will not forget this," Lyra continued, "nor will the galaxy." After a long moment, the voice spoke again, restrained and controlled. "We will withdraw. For now." The ships began to pull back, engines glowing as they prepared to leave. Evan sagged against the console, legs suddenly weak. "That worked?" he asked. Lyra allowed herself a small, tired smile. "For now." As the last ship vanished into folded space, the station fell silent once more. But the quiet was different now. He looked at her. Really looked at her. Not as a wounded stranger, but as something vast and powerful. "Yes," she replied, "but then you might not have chosen freely." He considered that, then nodded. "Fair." Outside, the galaxy adjusted its plans, because a simple human engineer had just stood in the way of empires, and the universe had paused to listen. The calm did not last long. Evan had barely sat down, letting his shoulders relax when the station's sensors flared again. Far away, engines burned brighter than before. This time, the ships were not negotiating. They were moving in formation, cutting across space toward him like a shadow racing across the stars. "They are coming back," Evan said, his voice tight. He had seen their movements on the scanner. These were no longer signals or warnings. They were an approaching threat, swift and precise. Lyra rose from the med pod she had been resting in, her body fully healed now, yet her eyes betrayed concern. "They will not stop," she said. Her voice was calm, but every word carried weight. "They seek to reclaim me or destroy the station if I remain." Evan glanced around the room. Shields were charged, weapons ready, but the station was small and the enemy ships were vast in number. He realized once again that brute strength alone would not save them. "Then, we need a plan," he said simply. "A smart one." Lyra studied him closely. She could feel the human thought process, their strange mixture of stubbornness and ingenuity. "The fleet is overwhelming. You cannot match them in force." "I know," Evan said, "but maybe we don't have to." He moved to the central console and began tapping into the station's older systems. Though outdated, the old salvage station had been modified over the years with his own custom work. With the right adjustments, it could hide the station's exact location long enough to buy them time, or even create a decoy signal to mislead the fleet. Lyra watched him, ears forward, her mind racing as fast as his. "You are daring to deceive entire fleets," she said. "Do you know the risks?" Evan looked at her, shrugging with a faint grin. "You never fight an empire head-on if you can make them fight shadows instead." She allowed herself a smile. Humans were strange creatures. Fragile, yet unafraid. Weak, yet capable of brilliance when necessity demanded it. And in this moment, she realized that she trusted him. Not because she had to, but because he had earned it. Hours passed as they prepared. Evan rerouted power from the outer shields to critical systems, set traps along predictable docking paths,
and calibrated sensor arrays to mimic a larger, more formidable station. Lyra guided him, offering insights on alien technology that even he could not understand fully. Together, they became a team. Not equal in power, but balanced in purpose. Finally, the fleet arrived. Dozens of ships surrounded the station, their dark hulls glinting coldly under the distant starlight. The communication channels opened once again.
"Return her now," a voice demanded. "Your resistance is futile." Evan tightened his grip on the console. "She is not yours to take," he said simply.
"And if you want to fight, you'll find me ready." Lyra stepped forward. She could have teleported away or called for reinforcements from distant allies, but she remained beside him. She felt the weight of the galaxy's gaze on her. But in that moment, she realized that what she wanted most was to stand with someone who had saved her, not with someone who feared her. The fleet commander's voice was sharp, almost incredulous.
"You dare defy the Sovereign's will?"
"I am not defying her," Evan said. "I am protecting her. And right now, that's my choice." The silence on the other end lasted longer than it should have. Then, a sudden wave of energy cascaded through the station. Shields flared as the fleet fired a test volley, enough to show they meant business, but not enough to destroy the station outright. Evan adjusted the energy redirection, channeling power from secondary systems to absorb the blast. Sparks flew across the consoles. Alarms screamed, but the station held. Lyra's eyes narrowed. "They will not relent," she said.
"And if they breach this station, we won't let them," Evan interrupted. "We have one advantage they don't expect."
The fleet hesitated, watching the station flicker. Then, without warning, Evan activated the decoy systems. Multiple false signals appeared, each broadcasting energy signatures similar to the station. Drones activated along hidden paths, emitting interference and creating chaos in the fleet's sensors. Lyra raised an eyebrow, impressed. "Clever." Evan grinned, despite the tension. "I learned from old salvage tech. Confuse the hunter before he even knows what he's chasing." The fleet scrambled, weapons firing erratically, unable to target the real station accurately. Evan and Lyra moved quickly, using the distraction to strengthen defenses and prepare escape contingencies if necessary. Hours dragged on. The human engineer and the Vulpine sovereign worked side by side, countering each attack, anticipating every movement. Neither rested, neither wavered. And as the battle raged, a bond formed, not romance, not obligation, but something deeper, mutual respect, trust, and understanding. By the time the fleet began to pull back, exhausted from the failed attempts to breach the station, Lyra turned to Evan. "You have done more than any soldier could," she said quietly. Evan looked at her, wiping sweat from his brow.
"We did it together."
"No," she replied, shaking her head. "You led. I guided." For the first time in centuries, she felt something unfamiliar. Relief, gratitude, something dangerous, something she would have to guard carefully. Even as the immediate threat faded, Lyra knew it would not be gone forever. The galaxy had noticed the human. It had noticed his defiance, and some among the fleets would return, not as negotiators, but as hunters, seeking revenge. Evan, oblivious to the weight of what he had just done, leaned back in exhaustion. "So, we survived," he said, voice tinged with awe. For now, she studied him, seeing something she had never expected in any being under her rule. Unwavering courage, calm in the face of overwhelming danger, and the quiet brilliance to turn weakness into strength. Outside, the stars continued to move, indifferent to human struggles and galactic politics. But inside the small station, something had shifted. A simple engineer had faced impossible odds, and the most powerful ruler in the galaxy had seen his worth. The coming days would demand even more from them both. But in that fleeting moment of victory, there was peace, a rare and precious gift in a universe that offered little of either. And as Evan drifted to a restless sleep, unaware of the galaxy's shifting eyes, Lyra allowed herself a small smile. She had found not just an ally, but proof that even the simplest human could change the fate of empires. The night was quiet, but it would not last. The fleet would return, the galaxy would stir, and challenges far greater than these awaited. Yet Evan had already proven one undeniable truth. Humans were not creatures to be underestimated. Their courage, their ingenuity, and their will to protect others could defy even the mightiest of powers. And Lyra, sovereign of stars and empires, realized that she had found something far more dangerous and far more valuable than all the fleets in the galaxy. A human who fought not for glory, not for power, but simply because it was right. The next battle would come. The stakes would rise, and when it did, both would face it together. One, the ruler of countless worlds; the other, a simple engineer who had already proven the galaxy wrong. And in that shared purpose, the first seeds of change had begun to grow. The silence after the battle was deceptive. Evan walked through the station corridors, checking systems again, though he knew most of them were stable. The adrenaline from the previous encounter had faded, leaving behind a dull ache and an uneasy awareness that this was only temporary. Every hum, every flicker of light, every distant vibration made him glance toward the viewport. He knew the fleet was still out there, somewhere in the vast blackness of space, and they would return. Lyra followed, moving with a grace that made Evan pause every time he caught her looking at him. She was fully recovered now, her silver fur gleaming under the station's lights. Her presence filled the room with authority, even when she said nothing. And yet, she stayed close, not commanding him, not giving orders, just present, as though her choice to remain here mattered more than any decree from her distant empire. "We can't keep hiding forever," she said quietly. Her voice carried the weight of stars, calm but impossible to ignore. "The fleets will return, and next time they may not be willing to negotiate." Evan leaned against a console, rubbing the back of his neck. "Then we fight smarter, not harder. You've got the fleets, I've got the station, together. We make them hesitate long enough to, I don't know, survive." She smiled faintly. "Your confidence is human, and your appreciation of it is unusual," Evan replied. He paused, watching her carefully.
"You're worried. Don't lie to me." She did not answer immediately.
Instead, she walked toward the viewport, staring at the distant stars. "I am always worried," she admitted finally, "even when I do not show it. Empires are built on certainty, yet certainty is fragile. One mistake, one miscalculation, and everything collapses."
Evan moved to stand beside her.
"Then don't do it alone." Her ears twitched. She studied him in the reflection of the glass. "You would stand against the fleets with me?" "A human?" "Yeah," he said simply. "I'm already here. Might as well help." A quiet moment passed. Stars moved silently, indifferent to human courage or galactic politics. Then the long-range sensors flared again. The enemy fleet had returned, larger than before, faster and angrier. Their weapons glowed ominously as they approached, and Evan felt the old tension prickling at the back of his neck. "They're here," he said, his voice calm but tight. Lyra straightened. "It is time." The station came alive. Shields shimmered, energy coursing through conduits, defense drones spinning to life. Evan moved like he had done this 100 times before, checking power levels, activating auxiliary systems, rerouting outputs to maximize effectiveness. Lyra guided him, whispering instructions about alien technology he did not fully understand, but could execute perfectly because her guidance was precise. When the fleet finally arrived in real space, it was overwhelming. Scores of ships moved in formation, their movements synchronized, efficient, relentless. On the main screen, the lead ship's commander appeared, a tall figure clad in ceremonial armor, eyes cold and unyielding. "Return the Sovereign now," the voice demanded.
Failure will mean destruction for all within this station.
Your move, he said. She stepped forward, her presence commanding attention even on the distant screens. They will not touch this station, she declared. Her voice was calm but resonant, carrying authority across the void.
Not while I stand here. Not while I have chosen to protect the one who saved me.
Evan felt the weight of those words. The fleet commander hesitated, the first sign of doubt he had ever seen. Ships shifted, scanning and recalculating, uncertain of what action to take against a ruler openly declaring her protection over a human engineer. You, a human, the commander said slowly. You are the reason we hesitate? Evan shrugged.
I don't know about that. I just fix problems. Lyra's eyes gleamed.
He is more than a human. He is a reminder that your rules do not define the galaxy. Choice defines the galaxy, and he chose to save me. There was silence, tension stretching across space. The fleet could destroy the station, enforce their will, and end this quickly. Yet they did not. Something about her words, the certainty in her voice, and the human standing beside her forced them to pause. Evan adjusted the shields, reinforcing weak points while the fleet hovered. We can't wait forever, he said softly.
No, Lyra agreed, but we can show them something new.
With a swift gesture, she activated a transmitter hidden deep within the station. A pulse of energy swept outward, broadcasting a signal across multiple channels simultaneously. It was not just a defensive signal. It was a declaration. Allies across the galaxy, systems loyal to her, received it immediately. The fleet commander's expression changed. Ships began to break formation as orders were received from distant, unseen forces. Some fleets loyal to her had moved into positions to surround them. The tide had shifted without a single shot being fired. Evan stared at her.
You planned all this? Partly, she said. Mostly I watched you.
You acted without fear, without expectation. That is rarer than power in the galaxy. The commander's voice came through again, but now it was cautious. Sovereign, this human. His actions are unanticipated. Exactly, Lyra said. Do not underestimate what humans can do. Their courage is not measured by armies or weapons, but by the choices they make when faced with impossible odds. Evan felt heat rise to his face. You're praising me, he said, half embarrassed, half proud.
I am praising what you represent, she said simply. And that is worth more than any fleet.
The tension finally broke. The fleet withdrew, not entirely defeated but forced to reconsider. Their commander nodded reluctantly, signaling retreat. For the first time in a long while, Evan realized they had won, not through brute force, but through courage, ingenuity, and trust. As the last ship disappeared into the stars, Lyra turned to him. You have changed how the galaxy views humans, she said. Not through weapons, but through action. Through choice. Through heart. Evan laughed softly, running a hand through his hair. I'm just a simple engineer. You're the one who rules empires. She shook her head. And yet, without you, the Empire may have tried to take me, destroyed your station, and changed everything.
You are part of this galaxy's history now. Not as a soldier, not as a diplomat, but as a human who acted when it mattered.
The reality sank in slowly for Evan. He had never sought recognition.
He had never wanted power. Yet here he was, standing next to the ruler of hundreds of worlds, having influenced the course of empires with nothing more than skill, courage, and a simple decision to help someone in need. Days passed, and the immediate threat faded. Lyra returned to her distant empire, but not before ensuring the station was recognized as neutral ground. Humans were now on lists of trusted allies, invited to learn, trade, and explore alongside the Vulpine civilization. Evan returned to his quiet life, repairing machines, adjusting shields, and occasionally shaking his head at messages sent by beings from across the galaxy. He did not take pride in fame. He never wanted it. But he understood that his choices had shifted the balance of power in subtle yet profound ways. Lyra watched from afar. She did not interfere in his daily life, but she ensured he had protection, supplies, and the knowledge that he was valued. To the galaxy, he remained a simple human engineer, unassuming and overlooked. Yet to her, he was a symbol of what humans could be: courageous, selfless, and capable of shaping the stars themselves. Over time, tales began to spread quietly across star systems. Stories of a human who saved a ruler and changed the course of empires, not through force, but through heart and action. Humans were underestimated less often. Alliances shifted. Others began to see the truth. Courage, compassion, and ingenuity were powers far stronger than fleets or weapons. Evan continued his work, still fixing machines, still alone in his station. Yet, something had changed. He understood now that even the smallest, simplest choices could echo across the galaxy, touching lives, shaping empires, and changing destinies. Lyra returned to her empire, but she never forgot the human who had saved her life when no one else would. And she never failed to honor the truth he represented. That humanity, in its quiet way, could rise above any obstacle, defy any power, and leave a mark that even the stars themselves could not ignore. And so, in the vast emptiness of space, a simple engineer and a sovereign ruler became a story whispered across light years. Not one of conquest or violence, but one of courage, trust, and the undeniable strength of the human heart. The galaxy had seen its first real lesson. Underestimate a human, and you may find yourself surprised.
Evan smiled to himself one evening, looking out at the stars.
The universe was vast, dangerous, unpredictable. But now he knew that humans, quiet, stubborn, brilliant humans, could stand among the stars and be counted. And perhaps, just perhaps, he would never be just a simple engineer again. The future was uncertain, but for the first time, it felt like it could be bright.